an executioner failing to behead a white-haired man. The white-haired gentleman says he can't die and has murdered countless people, and as we soon find out, he's named Gabimaru. Gabimaru has studied assassin techniques since he was a child and had become a shinobi for Iwagakure village. The woman assumes Gabimaru developed a superhuman body during his training days, since most people perish during it. Gabimaru confirms the executioner was weak, so he didn't have to rely on using ninjutsu. The woman asks him to show her some of his ninjutsu, but Gabimaru refuses. Afterward, some men try to burn Gabimaru at the stake, determined to kill him. Back in his cell, Gabimaru tells the woman he's not trying to resist death, and wishes they could kill him. Gabimaru reveals his village's chief killed his parents, and Gabimaru kills without purpose. He argues the village chief coerced his comrades to betray him when he tried to leave the village, leading to his capture. The men try executing Gabimaru using bulls, but that doesn't work. The woman walks up to Gabimaru and asks him why he wanted to flee the village. Gabimaru tells her he received his chief's blessing and married his daughter. He says the chief's daughter turned his life upside down due to her benevolent nature. He wanted a way out, so he spoke with the chief and tasked him with one final mission. Unknowingly, Gabimaru gets caught in a trap, leading to his capture. The woman walks with a fellow villager at night who informs her of Gabimaru's title, Gabimaru the Hollow, who murdered many men when he got arrested. The man informs her of a rumor that Iwagakure Shinobi consume an elixir of life, a medicine of immortality. She wonders why a man who wants to die would use his superhuman feats to resist death. Like their other attempts, Gabimaru manages to live through another one, shocking the executioners and himself. The executioners take Gabimaru to the woman's quarters and reveal she's a sword tester from Edo and a proficient executioner named Yamada Asemon Sagiri. Sagiri is from the well-established Yamada clan, known for beheading criminals with a single blow. Gabimaru's bewildered and breaks his wooden cuffs out of fear. Sagiri attempts to behead Gabimaru, but he dodges. She confirms she's witnessed many different reactions from people before their demises. Sagiri knows that Gabimaru has an attachment to life despite him saying he doesn't. She believes he harbors strong feelings for his wife. Gabimaru grabs a sword and clashes blades with Sagiri. As he does, we end up with a flashback depicting Gabimaru's wife telling him he isn't a hollow, but Gabimaru argues he is because he's grown accustomed to witnessing cruelty. His wife says he's a kind person inside and argues that she wishes they could live ordinary lives. She wanted to pursue this goal, but her father was so against her wishes that he burned her face to make her give up. She kisses him on the lips and he blushes, proving her point that he's not an emotionless human being. It's revealed that Gabimaru wanted to leave his killing position behind so he and his wife could live a quiet life. This is what he spoke with the chief about, and this is what led to everything mentioned above. Before Gabimaru strikes at Sagiri, she whips out a scroll in front of him. It's a pardon that will wipe away Gabimaru's charges and grant him the shogun's protection. However, Gabimaru must travel to the underworld. There is a land called Shinsenkyo, a place brimming with joy and said to hold the immortality-granting elixir of life. The shogunate sent people to retrieve the elixir, but no one returned alive. Due to people returning in flower-like forms, the shogunate assigned people to hunt down death row convicts from over the country and send them to this island to retrieve the elixir. Whoever retrieves it will be pardoned. Sagiri confirms that was her mission and that Gabimaru's wife is still alive in Iwagakure. If Gabimaru ever wants to reunite with his wife, he must travel to Shinsenkyo to compete against other convicts for the elixir.
Later, Sagiri's senior, Aizen, was seen telling her that she was not suited to the job of beheading because the Yamada clan's daughter should have lived a quiet life in the household. Sagiri then responded that those who were born in the Yamada clan could never keep their hands clean, because women were also used to making medicines from the decapitated body, and that's why she threw herself into pursuing a career in beheading. Sagiri's struggle with fear serves as a central theme in this episode as she confronts her own weaknesses, and seeks to overcome them in order to become a skilled executioner like her father. All the criminals who were death row convicts were gathered in front of the shogunate and informed of their mission to retrieve the elixir of life from the mysterious island of Shinsenkyo. The convicts were then briefed on their mission, and their face coverings were removed to reveal the fate they might face, just like the previous officer who had visited the island. The officer's body was covered in blooming flowers, which unnerved some of the convicts. However, they were informed that there was limited space on the ship. So, before they could embark on this journey, they faced a brutal selection process in which they were pitted against one another in a deadly battle. Yamada Aseman Aizen confronted Sagiri as the massacre among the prisoners was taking place, and made an effort to dissuade her from taking part in the mission, as mentioned earlier. Despite his warnings, Sagiri was determined to face her fears and wanted to join Gabimaru in the deadly fight. Witnessing Gabimaru's ruthless fighting skills and his ability to bear the weight of his actions, Sagiri came to the realization that she must embrace her fear and the responsibility of taking lives. With this new sense of determination, she stated that she would be the one to kill Gabimaru. As the brutal conflict was going on among the prisoners, an officer stopped them when the number of criminals came down to 10 and said they were selected for the adventure. Once the remaining criminals were chosen, they went to the island with the Yamada Seaman executioners, who were sent to kill them. Gabimaru mentioning the Iwagakure chief's immortal body. Based on this, the elixir of life may be real, and if it's real, it could be on that mysterious island. As Gabimaru and Sagiri explored the island with a little debate about keeping Gabimaru restrained, a sudden attack pushed Gabimaru away. It was later shown that the attack came from another deadly convict named Twisted Kian. While Gabimaru remained unharmed, Kian revealed his collection of weapons, which he wanted to try on Gabimaru. Despite Kian's body armor and strength, Gabimaru demonstrates his prowess by quickly countering his barrage of weapons. We are introduced to Yamada Seaman Kisho, a fellow seaman who dismissed the importance of rules set by the shogun and let Gabimaru and Kian battle. After the battle ended between Gabimaru and Kian, Kian's seaman executioner, Kisho, beheaded his prisoner and took his head as he had to submit it as proof of Kian's death. Before departing, Kisho warned Sagiri to stay safe as she was standing beside a criminal. Kisho explained that the situation on that island was about to turn adverse. Every prisoner would turn against each other to survive and get the elixir of life first. The shogunate made contact with Iwagakure to have their assassins sent to the island. This startled Gabimaru, as he knew how vicious the assassins of Iwagakure were. After Kisho's departure, the situation took a dramatic turn when Gabimaru unexpectedly attacked Sagiri. This caught her off guard, making her question her understanding of Gabimaru's resentment. Both Sagiri and Gabimaru hesitated during their confrontation, but Gabimaru tried to maintain his resolve as he grappled with the belief that sentimentality was a weakness. He fought Sagiri with the intent to kill her to prove his strength and secure his survival. As Gabimaru battled Sagiri, he recalled the Iwagakure chief's teachings that emotions were weaknesses. His desire to survive and reunite with his wife drove him to consider Sagiri a hindrance to his mission, fearing that if the Iwagakure assassins arrived, everything would be in vain. However, Gabimaru's wife's influence on him made him realize that emotions could be a source of strength rather than a liability. This led to a turning point in the relationship between Gabimaru and Sagiri, changing the course of their journey together beyond that of executioners and prisoners. As Sagiri accepted her defeat and waited for the final blow from Gabimaru, she noticed that he was hesitating and finally realized that he was not hollow from the inside. With Gabimaru's emotions, she even understood her own and aligned them with him. Sagiri's determination to uphold her morals, and her promise to support Gabimaru throughout their journey to find the elixir of life cemented her role as an unlikely ally. She challenged Gabimaru's perception of sentimentality and helped him understand that it was not a weakness, but a strength that could propel him forward. Her unwavering belief in his ability to change allowed him to come to terms with his emotions, setting the stage for a deeper bond between the two characters. Tomiya Gantitsusai and his seaman executioner, Fuchi, were introduced. As they were stunned to see the man-made objects around them, Gantitsusai noticed a butterfly sitting on his hand and flying off. He then lucidly noticed that the butterfly had a man's face and stung his hand. Recalling the fate of the guard who had previously returned from the island, he immediately took action and separated his wrist as it began to sprout flowers. Filled with anticipation, he readied himself to fend off the encroaching creatures. Suddenly, he spotted a massive beast approaching from behind, causing him to feel alarmed. Simultaneously, Gabimaru and Sagiri encountered another mysterious creature. Gabimaru instructs Sagiri to keep her distance while he braces himself for battle. Tomiya Gantitsusai revealing his ambitious plan to eliminate the competition, while searching for the elixir. Before that, he talked about his past, including how Daimyo Tatsumi made fun of him and claimed that even though he went by the moniker Blade Dragon, Gantitsusai couldn't possibly cut a real dragon. Yamada Seaman Fuchi, Gantitsusai's executioner, was also introduced. He was seen as more interested in dissecting human bodies than beheading. He was fearful at the thought of a stronger group being called upon if the shogun became impatient. The battle continued from the previous episode, where Gabimaru and Sagiri found themselves surrounded by bizarre fish-like creatures. Sagiri struggled with the brutality of the situation, illustrating the vast difference in their life experiences. Despite this, Gabimaru protected her in the midst of battle without even realizing it demonstrated his underlying capacity for empathy. Yuzuriha and her seaman executioner, Yamada Seaman Genji, made a dramatic entrance in this episode, saving Gabimaru from the strange creatures. Despite his initial mistrust of Yuzuriha, the kunoichi of Keishu, Gabimaru agreed to work with Yuzuriha, who shared valuable information about the island's creatures and their mysterious connection to the human-faced butterflies. Yuzuriha was shown to have two seaman executioners, Genji and Senta. The latter was her actual executioner, and she trapped her seaman Genji with her flirting. This alliance signaled a shift in dynamics as the characters realized that cooperation might be their best chance of survival. However, Gabimaru's insistence on not fully trusting his new allies kept the tension high, leaving viewers to wonder how long this alliance would last. This is because Yuzuriha's actual face has already been revealed, which showed how much she could lie and do to survive. We are also introduced to 2 new characters and delved into the backstory of Toma and Asa Chobei, shedding light on their tragic past and their unbreakable bond as brothers. Their resolve to eliminate all monsters and criminals on the island, and claim the elixir for themselves further complicated an already precarious situation. As more characters reveal their true intentions, it remains to be seen how their actions will impact the delicate balance of power on the island. Sagiri stands up, gets outside to check on her prisoner, and finds out that Gabimaru is cooking dinner. Later, the group discusses their findings on the island, with Gabimaru sharing information about the mysterious plants they encountered when he and Genji went to look for food. Gabimaru also mentions not finding anything resembling the elixir of life according to the illustration he has. While Yuzuriha questions him about his knowledge of the subject, Gabimaru remembers his leader's immortal body but lies about relying solely on the drawing, raising Yuzuriha's suspicion. Gabimaru also mentions that he finds some unfamiliar flowers that resemble those that were found in the samurai's body. Asaemon Senta emphasizes not relying solely on the illustration. He further mentions the statue that imitates Buddhist and Taoist figures and questions the human existence on that island. Sagiri then explains the characteristics of the creatures they encounter. These monsters, seemingly lacking organs or genitalia, make the group wonder about the true nature of the island. Gabimaru becomes excited about the possibility of the elixir of life, motivating the group to research the monsters further before continuing their journey. In a desperate attempt to escape the island, Yamada Asaemon Tenza and his assigned criminal, Nurugai, navigate through the fog to find the shogunate's ship. To their horror, they discover the destroyed boats of those who had previously tried to leave the island. Amidst the wreckage, Nurugai and Tenza are attacked by a large tentacle, forcing them to confront their pasts and the choices that brought them to the island. Nurugai, haunted by her guilt for leading soldiers to her village and the subsequent slaughter, questions whether she deserves to live or die for her sins. Tenza, refusing to accept Nurugai's desire to give up, encourages her to fight for her life and return home. As they battle their way off the wreckage, they uncover a seaman Kisho's flower-covered corpse and are surrounded by more tentacles. Having successfully returned to the island using Kisho's boat, Tenza discovers that Nurugai is actually a girl. She proposes that once they return home, she makes him her groom, a proposition Tenza nonchalantly shrugs off, determined to find an escape route and locate his allies. Tenza and Nurugai continue to explore the treacherous island together. Despite Senta's warning, Genji insists that Sagiri should leave the island at dawn, while Senta believes she should stay and keep an eye on Gabimaru. Refusing to be underestimated any longer, Sagiri urged Genji to acknowledge her as a samurai. In response, Genji angrily attacks her, but Sagiri manages to disarm him. As Genji becomes furious, Rokuroda approaches him from behind, prompting a panicked Sagiri to try and warn him. As soon as Genji notices Rokuroda, he pushes Sagiri away and takes a fatal blow from Rokuroda. Before he harms Sagiri, Gabimaru attacks Rokuroda. Sagiri informs Gabimaru that Rokuroda is a criminal like himself, while Gabimaru asks Yuzuriha for assistance. However, she reminds him that her role in her group is to gather information. As Gabimaru fights Rokuroda, Sagiri attends to Genji's wounds. After understanding Sagiri's convictions, Genji offers her his sword and asks her to kill Rokuroda. Sagiri slices off one of Rokuroda's fingers and promises to assist Gabimaru in the fight. Senta wants to assist too, but Yuzuriha says it'd be best for them to observe. Sagiri finds it difficult to put down Rokuroda, so she tells Gabimaru that they must get him to hunch over so she can strike with enough force to wound him. Rokuroda slams Gabimaru to the ground with intense force. Before Rokuroda hits Gabimaru, Sagiri jumps in and blocks his attack with her sword. Rokuroda backs off to give Sagiri and Gabimaru time to think. Gabimaru unleashes his ninpo technique, enticing Yuzuriha and Senta to flee the scene. Yuzuriha believes Gabimaru and Sagiri plan to set the forest on fire to murder Rokuroda. She says that the smoke rising from the forest fire will cause Rokuroda to experience shortness of breath since he has terrible crying habits. Rokuroda hunches over, allowing Sagiri to behead him. Gabimaru and Sagiri flee the area before the fire picks up. Gabimaru and Sagiri notice the monsters heading toward the fire, so Gabimaru suggests they travel in the direction the monsters came from because it's their only lead to the elixir. Gabimaru and Sagiri reunite with Yuzuriha and Senta, where they notice a village up ahead and question if there are inhabitants there. Meanwhile, Toma and his Aseman Chobei discuss hermits, who are said to live in Shinsenkaio and have magical capabilities. The episode closes with them finding 2 people kissing each other. Meanwhile, Gabimaru overhears someone running away and learns it's a girl, and before he knows it, a tree monster attacks. He leaves Sagiri and his allies with the creature to find the girl. He believes she may have intel about the village up ahead, so Sagiri chases after Gabimaru, leaving Senta and Yuzuriha with the monster. Gabimaru and Sagiri reach the child, but she attacks Gabimaru with a powerful attack. Gabimaru captures the girl with some vines, resulting in her crying. Sagiri asks him to let her go. Sagiri comforts the girl, and they reunite with Yuzuriha and Senta. The tree creature asks the group to return her to him, and he'll take them to the village and share information about the elixir of life. Arriving at the creature's home in the village, Yuzuriha and Sagiri rest in the bathhouse. Afterward, Gabimaru and the others eat some of the tree creature's food. While they eat, the tree creature shares info about the village and the elixir of life. He explains they call Shinseikyo Kotaku. The creature says the elixir exists, and they refer to it as Tan. While the island is separated into 3 regions, the shore and forest are in Aishu, the village is a part of Hojo, and the elixir is in Horai, within the mists at the center of the island. Once they meet the Tensen, they'll know he's not making any of this up. We also learn that Toma and Chobei are fighting Tenzin. They never die or age, and remain eternally beautiful and on a whole new level of strength. The tree creature knows they doubted his kindness, but he also knows they won't last on Shinsenkyo because all humans who arrive here perish eventually. We receive a shot of what appears to be Chobei and Toma's weakened bodies on the floor, with the blonde Tenzin towering over them. The tree creature says the Tenzin are the most important beings on the island, who command the Sashin, the beings our crew has fought, punish the guilty, and don't adore people who come to the island. They don't kill their victims, they only transform them into beautiful flowers. The blonde Tenzin drops Chobei and Toma into a pit, so they can become flowers, which will fuel the elixir's power. The tree creature confirms he's been blessed with the elixir's power. The tree creature introduces himself as Hoko, while his female childhood friend is Mei. Hoko explains they were born and raised on the island for centuries and asks them to allow the pair to live on the island quietly. Sagiri and Gabimaru spot Mei in the bathhouse, where Sagiri plans to recreate the Edo-style bathhouse experience to help Mei and Gabimaru bathe without awkwardness. Sagiri hands Gabimaru some bath supplies to clean himself up with, and after Sagiri helps Mei get cleaned up, she thanks Sagiri with a hug. The whole scenario reminds Gabimaru of his wife and her advice on why it's important to rest and enjoy life. Gabimaru tells Mei that she shouldn't be embarrassed about her scar and that he knows someone with one who is extremely beautiful. The episode concludes with Gabimaru pondering his goal.
Nurugai and her assailant Tenza wandering Shinsenkyo. Suddenly, a mysterious figure arrives and attacks Nurugai and Tenza. Tenza slices up the being and flees with Nurugai into the forest. The being attaches its sliced up parts using plant vines and catches up. Tenza's master Cheyenne arrives, and he attacks the being, allowing the three to flee. When they find safety, Cheyenne belittles Tenza for his lackluster skills. He explains he's alone because he finished his duty. Cheyenne couldn't find his way home because he couldn't find a current that led away from the island. Cheyenne found a stream that holds a possible escape route. He decided to look for others with a similar purpose and eventually ran into Nurugai and Tenza. Tenza asks him to take him to the current he found, but Cheyenne wants to know why he's protecting Nurugai because it's against the rules. He shows a piece of his criminal's hair to them to show he's following the shogunate's rules. Tenza says Nurugai's done nothing wrong, but Cheyenne doesn't want to hear it. He confirms Tenza's committing an act of treason for not carrying out his assailant duties. Tenza retaliates, saying Cheyenne wasn't obligated to take Tenza in when he was homeless but chose to. Cheyenne says it's because he sensed potential in Tenza, and Tenza uses his statement to argue for Nurugai's protection. After hearing him out, Cheyenne withdraws his sword but warns Tenza if protecting her threatens the Yamada clan or him, he'll execute Nurugai. Suddenly, the being returns and wounds Cheyenne. Tenza attacks the being, but his attacks prove useless, resulting in the thing fatally wounding Tenza. In a flashback, Cheyenne tells a young Tenza he took him in because he sensed potential in him. During his training with Cheyenne, Tenza argues he doesn't have potential and wants to quit. Cheyenne says if he can land one blow on him, he'll allow Tenza to leave. Aizen approaches Tenza and asks him to follow him to a cemetery. Aizen shows Tenza Cheyenne's former junior Teshin's grave. Aizen explains Teshin left Cheyenne and pursued a life of crime. Cheyenne had to execute Teshin for his crimes. This led Cheyenne to become a passionate mentor and gave him the spark to help people. Tenza returns to train with Cheyenne. Although he's on the brink of death, Tenza plans to stall this long enough for Cheyenne and Nurugai to escape. Cheyenne flees with Nurugai into the forest, leaving Tenza with the being. The being defeats Tenza. Cheyenne promises to make them pay for what they've done. We receive a close-up of Tenza's lifeless body as a cherry blossom petal lands on his headband. In a flashback, Tenza managed to land a blow on Cheyenne. Instead of quitting, Tenza asks Cheyenne if he can train him more with the sword. The episode closes with a close-up of a cherry blossom branch. Senta becoming overwhelmed by the number of mysteries on the island. They all fall asleep except for Gabimaru, who recalls Senta telling him they should gather intel about the Tenzin and create a plan before traveling to the Horai region of Shinsenkyo that holds the elixir of life. Gabimaru decides to leave the others behind in the present and reach Horai using the information they gathered from Hoko. Gabimaru reaches a misty area where the sentient trees are praying to something. Although Gabimaru knows it's dangerous to travel alone without a plan, he's determined to grab the elixir and return to his wife. Before Gabimaru opens the gate to Horai, the plant-like Tenzin who killed Tenza arrives. The being asks Gabimaru to leave because they don't want to fight. Gabimaru asks the being if they make elixir out of humans to trigger the Tenzin. They engage in combat. Although Gabimaru wounds the Tenzin whips out a new technique to wound him severely. Fueled by his desire to see his wife, Gabimaru trades swift blows with the Tenzin, tearing off several of its limbs. He backs off, and the Tenzin transforms into a flower-like creature. The creature overwhelms Gabimaru to the point where he sees his wife in a dream. Even though Gabimaru wishes that what he's witnessing is real, he's glad he gets to see his wife again. The creature grabs Gabimaru, but he uses his last bit of energy to damage it. Before Tenzin finishes Gabimaru, Mei rescues him, and they retreat. Meanwhile, Sagiri requests the others to help her find Gabimaru in Horai. Hoko agrees to accompany them because he feels Mei went after Gabimaru. During their trip, Hoko explains the origins of the Tenzin to our group. Meanwhile, The Tenzin hold a meeting going over the news of humans arriving on Shinsenkyo. One of the Tenzin named Ju outs their member Eugene for performing their watch duties poorly, and Gabimaru forces them to use their Kishikai transformation. A purple-haired Tenzin tells Ju FAA to stop toying with Eugene because they're family and says he's the only one who can harm Eugene. He reminds Ju FA that he should have been monitoring his humans, Chobei and Toma, since he found a dead creature in the area. The purple-haired Tenzin tells his family not to underestimate the humans and plans to kill them all and use their bodies to make more elixir. Meanwhile, Hoko continues explaining Tenzin's origins to Sagiri and her allies. He says there are 7 Tenzin when there used to be only 1. He lists their names and says a hermit who mastered their art and became a god split into these 7 Tenzin. They all look and sound the same, but they have different personalities. Hoko confirms he used to look like a human when he was a child alongside the other residents on this island. They prospered for many years but transformed into trees before they perished. Based on their faith, the residents believe by turning into trees near Horai, they ensure their souls get sent to Horai after death. Meanwhile, Gabimaru wakes up next to Mei. He ponders his fight with Eugene and says there must be a way to kill them. Suddenly, Gantetsusai and Fuchi encounter Gabimaru. The episode closes with Gantetsusai planning to kill Gabimaru, Fuchi preventing Gantetsusai and Gabimaru from fighting because he wants to assess the situation and gather intel from Gabimaru. Gabimaru bows before the two and asks them to join forces with him. Gantetsusai's a bit peeved by Gabimaru's actions, but Fuchi's willing to hear him out. Gabimaru shares his knowledge about the Tenzin with them, puzzling Gantetsusai and Fuchi. Gantetsusai agrees to help Gabimaru because he's not interested in the pardon offer from the shogunate. He mainly wants to become immortal, not in the physical sense. He wants to be known as the man who defeated the Tenzin. Fuchi finds his goal foolish but admits he's fascinated by immortal beings. Therefore, Gantetsusai and Fuchi accept Gabimaru's terms as long as he lets Gantetsusai defeat Tenzin and Fuchi to dissect them after Gantetsusai and Gabimaru kill them. Before Gabimaru provides them with additional information, he notices Mei's older and can speak English. Gabimaru asks Mei if she's like the Tenzin. Meanwhile, Senta asks Hoko questions about the Tenzin. He feels this is a man-made religious environment created by one individual. This individual will only allow humans to leave the island when transformed into flowers. He reiterates that their best intention is to find the elixir and a way to escape. Although Yuzuriha believes Mei and Gabimaru perished, Sagiri argues he's alive and must be planning his next move. At the same time, Gabimaru asks Mei to tell him and his new comrades how they can defeat the Tenzin. Mei says Tao and other things, confusing Gabimaru and his comrades. Meanwhile, Hoko confirms Tao is the power that flows through all things and the Tenzin controls it. We cut to Nurugai trying to get Cheyenne to teach her how to wield a sword. Cheyenne doesn't want to help her because he doesn't want to see more people die before his eyes. He plans to avenge Tenza without Nurugai's involvement, but Nurugai insists on helping. Cheyenne explains the concept of waves to Nurugai. He says everyone has waves flowing through their system. This allows Cheyenne to know Nurugai's height, weight, and appearance. He argues using the waves improves one's senses and physical capabilities. We cut to Hoko, Mei, and Cheyenne explaining their different yet similar concepts to their teammates. Cheyenne demonstrates his understanding of everyone's waves by murdering the monsters around him. He hopes this will help Nurugai learn how to wield a sword professionally. He says he can't be his master due to his job, but Nurugai's free to study and learn to wield one. Meanwhile, Gantetsusai and Gabimaru get ambushed by some monsters. Gantetsusai says they can learn how to wield Tao by fighting the monsters. We cut to Tao Fa and Mudan getting intimate in a pit. Tao Fa tells Mudan that their plan to throw humans into the hole for elixir purposes is a genius move. Mudan says his human prey will never escape because the walls will block them. Chobei and Toma escape the pit. Chobei tells Toma that the creature's weakness is their groin or navel area. Suddenly, a creature, referred to as a doshi, spooks them and says he's come to observe them on orders from the Tenzin. He states the Tenzin are the creatures who hurt them. The doshi reveals his companions have gone out to scout the other humans who arrived on the island. The doshi asks Chobei and Toma to return to the hole to become Tan, but Chobei attacks the doshi and rips its arm off. Chobei plans to defeat the doshi to get answers about the Tenzin, but the doshi doesn't plan to back down. Chobei asks Toma to fight the other creatures while he focuses his effort on the doshi. The episode closes with the doshi knocking Chobei out.
Doshi planning to return Chobei to the hole after defeating him in combat. However, Chobei pulls a fast one on Doshi and attacks him. Surprised, the Doshi ponders if Chobei fused with the plant-like organisms while in the hole. To make matters worse, Chobei senses Tao energy flowing through Doshi and questions if he needs Tao to kill the Tenzin. Doshi asks Chobei how he'd feel if he was no longer human. Chobei doesn't mind it. Chobei continuously attacks Doshi and realizes their navel is their weak point. Doshi notices Chobei's Tao energy is rapidly increasing over time. Doshi calls his Sashin subordinates to help him, but Toma says he's slain them all. Chobei attacks the Doshi with all his might and confirms he'll need to practice Tao if he hopes to get revenge on the Tenzin. Chobei asks Toma to help him tie up Doshi while Toma questions if his brother will be okay because of the weird vine tattoos he has on his neck. Meanwhile, Gantetsusai and the others fight their Sashin and Doshi. Gantetsusai asks Mei if he's closer to controlling Tao energy, but she's not helping much. Gabimaru notices Fuchi's doing weird things to the Sashin. Fuchi says he's analyzing their corpses and realizes not all their structures are similar. Doshi spots Mei and kidnaps her from Gantetsusai's shoulder. He confirms he's been secretly looking for her. Doshi says Mei was banished from the palace and disappeared from Horai. Rain told him not to look for Mei, but this situation allowed him to reunite with her. Doshi tells Gabimaru she doesn't belong with humans since he feeds off of humans like the Tenshin. Doshi asks Mei to return to Horai and lead them. Gabimaru interferes with Doshi's plan to capture Mei. Doshi summons his subordinate and plans to turn Gabimaru, Gantetsusai, and Fuchi into Tan. They engage in combat with both Doshi but are overwhelmed by their might. The Doshi asks Gabimaru why he's insistent on helping Mei, and he says he's doing the right thing. Gabimaru asks both Doshi why they're obsessed with Mei. The Doshi confirm they study with Tao and use it for training. They argue Mei is essential to that training regime and say all living things have Tao. He explains the 5 methods to mastering Tao. These include Duin, Taisoku, Shutsu, Shuten, and Bachijutsu. The latter is important since it requires a partner because it involves the circulation of Yin, Yang, and Congress, intercourse. Doshi continues by saying that everyone possesses Yin and Yang Qi and must grow their Tao until both circulate. He says the mind and body are prepared for training through Duin and Taisoku, leading to both parties Yin and Yang undergoing Bachijutsu. Going through this process heightens one's Tao to possess the power to change the laws of nature. He argues the Tenshin helped them develop this technique. Doshi confirms they've trained for numerous years to achieve the greatest Tao possible. Since the Doshi are male they possess Yang Qi, while Mei possesses Yin Qi of the highest quality. He confirms Mei was banished since she's an inferior Tenshin who only has Yin Qi and can't transform. However, they plan to perform Bachijutsu with her to achieve proficient Tao energy. Doshi confirms Rain gave Mei the scars on her back and gave her 2 conditions to die or to engage in Bachijutsu with the Doshi. Gabimaru and Gantetsusai engage in combat with the Doshi. Gabimaru realizes they're weaker than the Tenshin, but he can't seem to detect their Tao. Fuchi tells them their minds must be strong and weak to see Tao. He says he deciphered her words and had her demonstrate. Mei helps Gabimaru see Tao, and Mei confirms his Tao energy is big. Gabimaru fights the Doshi now with a proper understanding of Tao and argues he's finally on par with the Tenshin. The Doshi explains their plans of attack to Gabimaru. Gabimaru and Gantetsusai slay them. Sajiri and her allies reach Horai. The episode closes with Muden using his powers to chop off Hoko's head.
He goes on to tell Sajiri, Yuzuriha, and Senta that they are the first humans to reach Horai in like 1,000 years. Yuzuriha, with her 6th sense, knew this new enemy is no joke, so she tries to run away, but Muden catches her and says he won't kill her yet. Sajiri also sensed the threat and demanded to know who he is. That's when Hoko reveals that Muden is one of the Tenshin. Unfortunately, cutting off Hoko will eventually turn him into a tree faster, Muden explained, further stating that the belief Hoko and his people had of entering Horai was all a lie. In fact, the island is not a place for the afterlife, but a place for experiments on life. This is when Muden called out some creatures he experimented with, called the Kyoshi, to hold down Yuzuriha. And about the potion they seek, called the Elixir of Life, it doesn't exist. So this means their journey was all for nothing and Sajiri becomes worried for Gabimaru. Muden tells Sajiri and Senta to let themselves be captured because he had some plans for them. And while he looked at Yuzuriha, she was not there. Instead, it's Hoko's body, and suddenly, Yuzuriha attacks and decapitates Muden. The Kunoichi uses this opportunity to escape but notices Sajiri is spaced out because she is worried about the Elixir of Life, but Yuzuriha thanks her for caring and suggests they focus on staying alive by running away. That hope was dashed when Muden comes back to life and orders the Kyoshi to attack Yuzuriha with a corrosive substance. Yuzuriha with great reflexes avoids the attack and Muden realizes she's using Tao but not at his level. Yuzuriha counters that she doesn't know Tao but she knows what she is. Suddenly, Sajiri, too slow to react, gets hit by Muden, sending her flying. This attack is one of those invisible projectiles, but then Senta won't take this lying down, so he cut off both of Muden's hands and his right leg. The Tenshin warned Senta not to interfere and Yuzuriha actually agrees with him as she whipped a Ninpo poison attack and ripped apart Muden's body. Again, this didn't last long as he quickly regenerated and confirmed Yuzuriha's power was similar to Tao, but she wasn't using it properly. Senta sliced off the top of Muden's head and suggested that they find a better plan to defeat him. They both attacked together, but the Tenshin used Tao to sense and dodge their attacks easily, proving that their strategy was useless because he could sense their movements with Tao and that they were no match for him without mastering Tao. Now they're in a dicey, dangerous situation and they need a solution fast. So Sajiri asks Hoko for any kind of weaknesses. Hoko is still being religious, but Sajiri gives it to him straight that if we die, you won't see Mei anymore. As Muden prepares to kill Senta, Sajiri blocks the attack and it seems she now knows something. She throws her sword at Muden's navel, but he remains unharmed because the samurai doesn't know how to use Tao yet. Sajiri's aura changes as she controls her breathing and releases a vast amount of Tao and unleashes a deadly strike. Muden is freaked out by the burst of Tao and dodges the attack, which slightly injures him. And that's not all, Yuzuriha and Senta notice that the wound is not healing. When Sajiri attacked Muden, she sensed a special energy coming from him and she thinks it was the same energy she felt from Gabimaru and Rokuroda. Yuzuriha thinks this through and realizes they need a certain amount of Tao to defeat Muden, and Sajiri can increase her Tao with breathing techniques. However, they wonder why Muden can't heal himself. So Sajiri offers to handle him alone, but Senta suggests they all work together to have a better chance of winning. Mudan was so overwhelmed by their attacks uses Ojutsu, Tsukino no Kuki-eye to run away and distance himself from them. He changes to his female form and unleashes Senjutsu, Suzusashi, to have multiple Tau projectiles rain down on them, causing so much damage. While taking cover, Sajiri notices that she is almost at her limit, but a weird thing happens as Yuzuriha, who is always the first to escape any dangerous situation, encourages her to keep fighting. She believes that it is possible to defeat their enemy and tells her that she will restrain Mudan to give them the chance to kill her. Using her sticky mucus, she grabs Mudan's leg, leaving herself vulnerable to the Tensen's Tau projectiles. Although she gets hurt, Yuzuriha stands strong and fiercely fights Mudan, telling Sajiri to attack while she can. Senta comes from behind and restrains the Tensen, giving Sajiri the chance to strike Mudan's weak point and end him. After the battle, Sajiri goes to Hoko and worries about his condition, but he assures her that he's fine. She tries to make sense of everything and she's worried about the elixir of life not existing, but Yuzuriha believes they'll figure out a way, maybe even giving the golden statues in exchange for their lives. Meanwhile, Gabimaru is trying to get better at Tau, but he's not there yet and he can't ask the Doshi about the elixir of life because they're dead. So Fuchi suggests asking Mei, but Gantetsusai thinks it's not fair to burden her because of what the Doshi had done to her. Instead, Gabimaru thanks Mei for saving him and wants to repay her. Suddenly, Gabimaru starts bleeding from his nose and faints, which surprises everyone. Back to the Horai, Yuzuriha saw Mudan's lifeless body and noticed flowers growing from it. She quickly pointed out to Sajiri and Senta. Suddenly, a stinger came out of the flowers, aiming for Yuzuriha. But Senta bravely pushed her aside and got stung instead. As Senta was stung, flowers started blooming on his head, and he fell into a strange trance, dreaming of drawing Yuzuriha. Sajiri was overcome with fear and fell to her knees as Mudan transformed into a Kishikai, asking Yuzuriha what they should do. Again, for the first time, Yuzuriha doesn't know what to do as she lost hope in fighting the Tensen once again. They were defenseless as more flower stingers attacked them, but just when things seemed hopeless, Shion appeared just in time and cut down the stingers. He asked Narugai to move the women to safety and took on the monster using the Tau knowledge he has tested over time. Even after the flowers were removed, Senta was still in bad shape. Sajiri asked Toko for help, but he said there was nothing he could do. Luckily, Yuzuriha stepped in and applied a salve to stop the bleeding. As Shion battled Mudan, Sajiri worried about him, but Narugai assured her that he wouldn't give up easily. As Shion continues the fierce battle against Mudan, dodging his stingers and Tau attacks, he wounds the monster, revealing his own powerful Tau. But the scratches from the stingers cause flowers to bloom on Shion's body. Determined to defeat Mudan, Shion slashes at the flowers, which causes him to lose lots of blood, and Mudan mocks him for fighting a losing battle, but Shion is willing to risk his life to bring him down. Seeing Shion in danger, Sajiri decides to join the fight. Yuzuriha is too weak to fight, but Narugai believes she can restore their strength by touching them. Anyway, Narugai hugs Yuzuriha and Sajiri, and they feel revitalized. Then, coated in Yuzuriha's mucus for protection, Sajiri rushes to help Shion. She tells Shion that they can only defeat a Tensen by striking their weak point, that is, their tanden. While she and Narugai act as decoys, Shion immobilizes Mudan by cutting his legs. The Aseman then moves in close, using his Tau senses and slashing away the stingers. Fueled by his anger for Tensen's death and the guilt he felt for running away, Shion manages to get on top of Mudan monster form, with Sajiri and Narugai pinning the Tensen's hands. As Shion was ready to strike his sword and cut the two bodies' tandens, he felt some weak waves coming from their tanden. And just as the stingers were about to regrow, Senta shouted that he should aim for the plant ovule at the center of Mudan's body. Shion listened and slashed the ovule, revealing many heads of Mudan. One of the heads was fascinated by Shion's powerful Tau, representing the balance of life and death. He regretted not being able to tell Rain about it. As Mudan's body was destroyed, peony flowers filled the area, and in his final moments, Mudan thanked Shion for ending his 1,000-year wait. After the fight, Sajiri is worried about Senta's condition, but Yuzuriha suggests using her salve to heal Shion instead, as it's too late for Senta. Then, Yuzuriha tells Senta that he is free to let go of his duties and think about what he wants, while Senta imagines being held by Yuzuriha and decides to be happy in his last moments. Shion suggests they move out of that place and assess the situation. After grieving at Senta's grave, Sajiri thanks Yuzuriha and believes that criminals and executioners should work together to escape the island, declaring that everyone should survive. Sajiri, Yuzuriha, Hoko, Shion, and Narugai take shelter in a small house. While changing clothes, they discuss Tau and the existence of the elixir of life. But Sajiri says Gabimaru believes strongly in its existence since his village chief doesn't really die. Yuzuriha speculates the village uses illusions to brainwash young children, causing them to fear the chief. And get this, is Gabimaru's wife even real? All this came as a shock to Sajiri. Meanwhile, Gabimaru wakes up in a cave with Mei, Fuchi, and Gentetsusai, who carried him halfway up a valley wall, but get this, he can't remember anything except his name. So he decides to pretend and gather information from these unrecognizable people around him. And if they suspect something is wrong, he's ready to kill them. But all this doesn't skip Mei's attention as she notices something strange about Gabimaru's head. His Tau is not fully formed. Outside, Gabimaru struggles to remember a memory of his wife. In the end, back on the mainland, Yamada Aseman Shujin receives a message from the Shogun. He is ordered to go to Shinsenkyo and keep an eye on the Vanguard Party with his chosen allies by his side. And the last episode of this season ends here.
How was the video? We hope it was good. If so, please check these videos. Also, please comment down your thoughts and your suggestions for future videos. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing now to show the support to our channel. We hope to see you soon with another video right in this channel. Have a nice day.